That's a really big part, I think, of a very successful event. What you're talking about there is the field, that a group and an event has an atmosphere, it has a field, and it has a mood, and we all get moved by that atmosphere. And in a way, if you cultivate an event correctly, the atmosphere will do a lot of the work for you. So then you as a facilitator don't have to work so hard, because the field is kind of actively supporting and holding and encouraging in a way, and nurturing people to be able to have the insights and the aha moments and the transformations that they're seeking.
Hello, my loves, and welcome back to Create Your Life. I am your host, Simone Leah. So I just wanted to let you guys know that today's interview is actually an interview that I recorded about a year ago when I ran an online event called the Soul-Led Entrepreneurs Summit. It was a really, really, really wonderful event. I had some beautiful, amazing speakers talking about things like connecting with your intuition and how you can use that in your business, how to do Facebook advertising, how to do marketing as a soul-led entrepreneur, all of these cool things to do with business, entrepreneurship, and actually also spirituality and connecting within. And so these interviews were so wonderful that I really wanted to be able to share them with you now. So if when you're watching this, you see or hear the word soul-led entrepreneurs, this is still the Create Your Life show, but these interviews were just too good for me to keep to myself any longer. So I really, really, really hope you guys enjoy this interview, and I can't wait to connect with you again soon. Hey guys, welcome back to Soul-Led Entrepreneurs. My name is Simone and I'm your host today. So today I had the absolute pleasure of interviewing Myree Morsi. Now, Myree is an awakening expert, international spiritual leader, therapist, healer, teacher, and coach, and the perfect person to have today's conversation about how to host an event with. So she was amazing to talk to about this particular topic. Myree has run and put together and organized events for people up in the thousands, and then her own events going up into the hundreds, like 200 to 500 people showing up to her own event. And then she also knows how to put together and run events on a smaller scale of say 20 people. So having this conversation with her today about how to host an event was amazing, because she's got experience in running large live events, and she's also got experience about running smaller events, and she's also got experience about running online events. So it was a really great conversation to get an understanding of how you would go about organizing an event and what that could look like, what little tips and tricks you need to remember. It was really just such a great conversation for someone who wants to put together a soul-aligned event in whatever form that comes through for them to take. So I really hope you guys enjoy this chat. Hey guys, and welcome back to Soul-Led Entrepreneurs. I'm here today with Myree Morsi. How are you today, Myree?
Great, I'm really well, and such a joy to be with you today, Simone.
I am so excited to be here with you as well. So you do a lot of work one-on-one with clients with things like removing blockages and healing and coaching and that sort of thing. But one thing that you also do is host live events. So I'm super excited to talk to you about hosting a live event today. I think that's going to be a really, really interesting topic for our audience. But I would love to start with the question of, what does being soul aligned in business mean to you?
Oh, that's such a great question. To be soul aligned for me means to be coming from that deepest part of yourself, to that kind of core essence and knowing of who you are. And at that, I believe at that level of ourselves, there's like an energy and momentum and something that's always wanting to be birthed into our lives and perhaps into other people's lives as well. And to me, being soul-led is being able to kind of deepen and anchor into that place and let it inform the way you, in terms of business or entrepreneurship, the way you lead and what it is that you want to create in that environment. And I think as you grow as a soul influenced entrepreneur, it gets very nuanced, right? And you can feel that those shifts that happen as you come into alignment, and then you want more.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And it's kind of, you just get into this kind of flow state and you don't want to get out of it, which is kind of how I'm interpreting the wanting more there. It's like you just want to stay in flow and connection all the time. So, yeah, totally agree with that. So, today we are going to be talking about hosting events. And I know that just before we started this interview, you said that you've managed really big 1,000 people events and smaller events as well, which is a huge wealth of experience in this topic. If someone's thinking about holding an event, where do they even start?
So there's such a great joy, I think, and sense of meaning that can come from running a successful event. And when I say live, these days live also for me includes online. So it can be live in person and live online, especially in these COVID, when we're trying to make things COVID friendly. The first thing I would say is you need to think about your purpose and what sort of experience do you want to give people, and your why. Like, why, what is your why behind the event? Because when you're going to host an event, it does ask a lot. You do have to show up a lot, but it gives you back so much in return. So to be very, very clear, first of all, about your why, and secondly, how do you want to leave people feeling after your event, and what do you want them to take away? Because then you build backwards from there.
Amazing. That's really interesting. So, yeah, if someone wanted to hold an event, when you say build backwards, do you mean on more the topics that are shared, or build backwards just, yeah, in what way build backwards?
So recently I just did a 5-day healer challenge. It was like a 5-day free program, to be honest. And I started by thinking, so my why was I wanted to connect with more people and have the experience of welcoming new people into my community. I definitely wanted to do something that was fun and that we all had a good time. And at the same time, something that was very deeply powerfully transformative. And I wanted by the end of those 5 days for people to be able to be in their yes about their deeper healer nature, about their own capacity to at least heal themselves and to own it, like, and connect to that power. So I had a sense of where I wanted to take people, and I had my why, and I was also promoting a program that I teach. And so I wanted a place where I could do a little bit of sharing, but that wasn't the primary intention. So once I kind of had that outline, then I had to decide how I was going to get people there. And I mean, first of all, I decided how I was going to get people into the event, right? How was I going to promote it, and what channels and avenues would I use to reach people that were beyond my own audience? And then once I'd set up all of those pieces, I sat down and I thought about the actual experience that each person was going to have one day at a time, and how I was going to step them through that. Because when the beauty of a 5-day event is that you really can take someone on a journey and keep taking them over their growing edges. If you have a short event, maybe you can get them over 1 or 2 growing edges, and that's fantastic. But if you have 5 days, or say you have a whole weekend, there's this really amazing capacity, if you design it well and you resource it well, that people will travel a long way, and people never forget you. If you help someone to travel a long way or have a very powerful experience, they'll always remember you.
Wow, that is amazing. And I would love to just delve a little bit on a side note. Like,
Yes.
if you're working with healing people, which is what the event was about, was that like a full eight hour a day event where people are like showing up, or like, because that would be such a transformational experience to do that for 5 days.
Oh my God, I'd love to do a full 5-day event like that. I could easily do it. I'm a bit of an overgiver by nature. It was a 5-night event. So each class was around an hour 40 to an hour 50. Yeah.
Oh,
So you can do it much shorter than that. Like, some people do a challenge and it's a 15-minute recorded video, right? So you can decide if you're going to do a challenge, or you totally get to decide. And I think it's really good to think about the kind of person you are and the kind of event you would like to lead, because you have to enjoy it. You have to be happy. You have to be feeling excited and lit up about it, even if you're really scared inside and you're doing something for the first time. So I really would invite you to dream into what you want to create. And if you're just beginning, or if it's your first event, just do one thing, like one night or 1 hour or a gathering in your home, and dream into, sometimes I think an event has a spirit and a life and a soul all of its own, and you can tune in and connect to that and how it wants to express itself as well. As that definitely happened in the challenge. I can tell you it had quite a life of its own.
Yeah, I literally love that. And I've noticed that in my own life as well. When I'll go to something like whether it's a course or an event or whatever, the actual intention set by the person running the event makes like an incredibly big difference to the feel of the event. And so, yeah, I totally completely resonate with that, connecting in with that energy, because I've been to events where I've just walked straight in and gone, wow, this is transformational. But it was based around the energy that the host had actually put together. Like anyone could have taught the content, you know what I mean? Like it was one of those things where it was solely about her. Like she created that space and she created that energy. So I literally love that. How would someone even do that? Like just in general, like is there a way for people to really connect in with that? Or is it more like you said, with working back of what you would want the event to feel like, and then be like, all right, well, for the event to feel like this, I would like it to have peaceful piano music playing and a couple of candles, and like how do you kind of design that aspect of it with the atmosphere and feeling?
That's a really big part, I think, of a very successful event. What you're talking about there is the field, that a group and an event has an atmosphere, it has a field, and it has a mood, and we all get moved by that atmosphere. And in a way, if you cultivate an event correctly, the atmosphere will do a lot of the work for you. So then you as a facilitator don't have to work so hard, because the field is kind of actively supporting and holding and encouraging in a way, and nurturing people to be able to have the insights and the aha moments and the transformations that they're seeking. That, how you create that, that's a kind of an art. And in a way, definitely I would spend time in terms of just kind of connecting to the energy or the spirit or the mood yourself, like in advance of that event, and journaling about it, meditating on it, dreaming into it, dreaming in and imagining that you are already there inside it. And then at another level, I think it's quite intuitive, like you can dream. I think it's like dreaming in and imagining what elements can you bring to that event or circumstance that can help cultivate that mood. And yes, it might be flowers and plants and candles and music. All of those things definitely set the mood. It's also a kind of, there's this way that if you are really in alignment as the host, right, with your intention and the intention of the event, and you're connected to your passion and your heart, that is also like a very sort of activating, alchemizing force that will also activate the field. And it's the other element to that. Why and how can someone create that kind of environment? I think it's someone noticing the kind of people that are coming, right? There's this way you see who are the people that are here in this moment and what is it that they need, because there are then these kind of words and language that you choose that can really touch and resonate with the person. And if you can, the other element to this is when you start the event, it's the way you build the community right at the start. It's the way you connect people together, help them to feel comfortable with one another. maybe you speak with one another and share with one another. It's that sense, because if you can bring the community of that event along and help people to feel like they are really enjoying and being a part of it, they then contribute to the field as well. So it's a combination of all of those things. And when, to be honest, I am a spiritual healer, and when I'm working, I work with my spirit teams. As a spiritual and energetic healer, I have a massive spirit team, and I have them also activate and cultivate and work on the field. So pretty much all of my events have this absolutely beautiful field that people love being a part of. It's like being in some kind of sacred temple. And that's both me and my team curating that kind of space. Yeah.
I literally love everything you just said. You know, I say that all the time. Like whenever people, that all of you amazing guests on the show, I say that all the time, and the audience is probably sick of it, but I really do. I think that's so beautiful. And I do think that that energy comes from within. Do you think it's harder or easier to cultivate that beautiful atmosphere and energy in an online event as opposed to a physical event? Or do you think it's easier in a physical event as opposed to an online? Or you don't think that makes a difference because it's the intention behind the event in the first place?
I think when you first start, it can be a little bit more intimidating to do it online, because you have to, the signals you get from people are more subtle. But I think you can create as just of effective sense of community and container and wholeness and inclusiveness in an online container as you can in a live container. And in the online experience, it's much more about what you are transmitting as a facilitator. It's much more about the language and your voice and the way you pace something and the way you're really inclusive to I would say being very inclusive to the diversity of your audience, and really making sure you make your audience feel very comfortable. I tend to be very honoring of difference, and I really invite people that if they're a mover or they're a liar downer or however they like to learn, because it's online, I really encourage people to make themselves cozy and comfortable rather than feeling like they have to sit up right in their office chairs. And I also encourage a lot of recognition of people's diversity of the way they're learning, right? Some people love to, if I show slides in an event, I always invite the people that are not visual to just close their eyes and listen, like it's a storytelling experience. And in that way, what you're doing is just honoring the uniqueness of who someone is in that moment and allowing them to feel included rather than overwhelmed or on the outside. So I've come to absolutely jam on online events.
Amazing. I literally love that. So if someone wanted to put an online event together and they know what they're doing in terms of all of the internal stuff, how do they start going about that with the external stuff? So do they, write the program first, or start the marketing first, or build the container first, or where do they kind of start physically?
Oh, that's such a big topic too. So it depends on the kind of person you are. I tend to start with the idea, and then I write an overview, and then I talk to my team about how we're going to execute it. And usually you have to then decide, if you're doing an online event, what kind of platform do you want to use? I tend to use Zoom most of the time, but there are a lot of other platforms these days that you can use. And then you decide on how you're going to do your marketing. So with an event, I suppose there's key areas, like there's the actual structure of it online, like how do people find it? Is it a Facebook page? Is it a web page? Is it on your website? Is it just a link and some information? So you have to kind of work out, and it can be very simple. It really can just be a Facebook page, right? You can just start with, you don't need all of this all these fancy things to have an online event. If you want to be really minimalist, a Facebook page and a Zoom account. That's it. That's all you need. And a community that you already have. That's the three things. And then you can run an online event. And once I have that basic idea, the first thing that you have to do is, it depends on how much marketing you're going to do. And with my business, we're sort of reaching beyond our current audience all the time. So we spend a bit of time getting the copyright and creating really nice pages, but none of those things are necessarily. I love beauty, so we're a bit beauty addicts in my team, and then that's when I start writing in the background. So I'll break down my event into, even if it's a one class or if it's say multiple classes or a whole program, I break it down into what each section, what the learning is, and then I sit with what is the way I think someone might learn that most, in the most fun way or the most sustaining way, because I'm always interested in people's experiences being something that remains with them for a long period of time.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. I love that. Definitely. Yep. I totally agree with all of that. And you definitely do want to finish an event with people remembering it and feeling the effects of it and feeling nurtured and held. I think that's a big thing with events, is when you leave and you're like, yeah, that event got me. Like that's an amazing feeling. So if someone wanted to consider hosting a live event, does that change the order of things? Because depending on the size that you're aiming for is going to change venues, and venues might need more time frame for you to book in and things like that. So what would the difference be organizing more of a physical event?
Right. So with a physical event, you are definitely much more limited to the number of people that you can have in that event. And that's totally in reference to the size of the space. With that in mind, it's really important to think, what is the right number of people for this event, right? If it's very intimate, maybe you only have 20 or 10 people. And if it's more of a large scale business event, maybe it's 200 or 500. It really is such a vast circumstance. But I would think, what is the ideal number? And I always think, don't push beyond what you feel is the right capacity, because if you have more people in a live event than you generally have capacity for, it can actually eat away at the quality of the experience and the energy. Not always, but to be mindful of that. And then once you've chosen your event, I think you ask around and you think around for where in your community, where is the best event? I have one place that I always love to teach my live events, because it's in a bushland setting and it really supports people going deep to do very soulful work. So I have my favorite venues.
Amazing. I love that. Oh, that would be so good. And because I don't think the audience knows this, but you're also in Australia. So we're both in Australia. So when you say to me that it's in a bushland setting, I'm like, that would just feel so energetically clean and clear and a beautiful space for people to heal with. I don't know if you guys in the audience there have all got an idea of what Australia's bushland is like, but it's a very nurturing environment. Like, it's a beautiful, beautiful environment. So if you were going to run a live event and say you did want to have more people, because I know you have said that you've run events with a couple of hundred people, what does the systems and teams look like to get something like that happening?
Yeah, so once you get, I think, beyond 50 to 100 people, it can be harder to manage on your own. I think you could still run a 200-person event on your own. I tend to have assistants, people who come and assist on the day. If there's food, then I definitely have. I mean, it depends again on catering, but I don't tend to have people that assist with the food and helping me to set up the room. And I spend a long time. I'm also a geomancer, so I will clear a space and I will drum a space and totally prepare that to be a beautiful container for people to come into. So we arrive really early. And you can have people that are greeters as well. So it depends on the size of the event and the kind of experience you want people to be having from the moment they get out of their car and they start walking to the building. I've worked on events that were like 5,000 and 10,000 people. I've been an event organizer for retreats for like 500 or 600 people at a time. And once you get to that size, it's definitely a big team and often a whole lot of volunteers. people that come along and want to participate and receive the learning, but are also wanting to contribute to help the event to run.
Amazing. I can't even imagine going to a retreat with 500 or 600 people. That would be so amazing. Like, that would be so cool, I think. So, yeah, like if someone was starting out wanting to launch their very first live event, would you say or suggest maybe start a little bit smaller than setting your aim at 500 people?
Unless you feel super confident to jump into 500, I think also running an event for someone else is one thing, because you don't have to be the center of attention and hold the space. I would practice. I would do some smaller events where you get to practice standing and speaking and presenting your ideas and seeing what it's like to engage the audience and be able to move them. Because as the leader of an event, your job is to move people. Because as Maya Angelou says, it's not what you say that stays with people, it's how you make them feel. And your job is to help them to have feeling-based experiences that are also associated with information and wisdom. And then they can take that away, because our brain plasticity only really shifts when we feel, right? That's when we create all of that amazing neurochemistry and rewire around our learning. So our job as people that are leading your events is to kind of build our skills and our ability to help people have meaningful feeling-based experiences in relationship to their learning or their self-inquiry or their transformation.
Yeah, I totally 100% agree with that. Is definitely all about the feeling. And you even notice it when you go to some events and by about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, everyone's ready to have a sleep. And then a new speaker will come on who's like this light bulb of energy and everyone's up and happy. And that person's got this vibrant energy that they completely shift the room. And then you leave that event and you've completely forgotten about the people you wanted to sleep through, but you 100% remember the person whose energy lifted you up. So I definitely think that's such an important and valid part of the whole thing of running an online or physical event. So yeah, what is all the sort of things that you normally would have to troubleshoot with an online or physical event? Like, is there little things that can sometimes pop up in any situation that need troubleshooting, or do they generally always run pretty much the same?
Oh my goodness, that's such a big question. I think
Sorry.
that's okay. I love it. I'm up for big questions. I'm thinking how to answer it in the context. So it depends again on the kind of event that you have. And I think the more experience you get to know how to be prepared for when things go wrong. If something goes wrong, you're doing an online event and the power goes off or your internet drops, right? Like, it can be good if you're doing an online event, especially a really big online event, to have someone else on there that's a co-host. So if you drop out, the co-host is still holding the call, right? That their internet keeps everyone still online, and then you just have to get yourself back online. So that's a really good tip if you're hosting something really, really big. I also would say, if you're doing transformational work, have a little backup plan in your head for if someone has something really big come up, right? People come with a lot of pain, a lot of stress. Even if it's in a business event, you might have someone in there whose parent died or whose business is hitting the wall, and they came to your event because they're totally hoping that they'll get an insight or an idea that can turn things around. And so you never know when someone I think you just don't know who's sitting in your audience and what kind of personal experiences or worries or financial issues they're carrying and they might be completely fine when they come to your event, and then you say something or someone else says something and the next minute they're in tears or sobbing, right? And that can be very beautiful and healing for them and for the space as well. And at the same time, it can be useful to have have awareness of how you want to support that person and respond to that, so that that person can get what they need and you can keep teaching the class, or you can keep running the event. And that might be that you have an assistant that comes in, or maybe you're working with a group in the way that you can stop and attend and give support to that person and then keep going. And sometimes you might have a place or a space where people can go and just kind of have a timeout. So it depends on the kind of event that you're running and the kind of contingencies or expectations you think might happen. And for me, I expect if I'm having a big live event that's very soulful, that people will cry. That's actually fine. It's like, so it's totally welcome in my events, because that kind of shift is a part of change. And I always have for live events, I always have a big box of things I'm not sure I'm going to need, but I take along anyway.
Ooh, I would love to hear what's in the box.
Oh my goodness. There's all sorts of like workshopy supplies, but there's often a kettle. Sometimes, and sometimes I have an urn in my car, because you'll get to an event and there's no way to give anyone a cup of tea. Like I've been to places like big event centers, and it's on the weekend, and you get there and they've forgotten to put the urn in the room, and you only have a key to that one part of the building. And sometimes I've had to ask people to go home and bring a kettle from home who live around the corner. So these kind of things happen. So I learned from that. Gosh, I have to try and even remember what's in that box. I haven't been able to do a live event for a year. So actually, no, I did some in March. That's true. When there was a little bit of, we've been in a lot of lockdown here in Australia, so not a lot of live events have gone on. Yeah.
I've literally,
sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I've literally loved all of these little troubleshooting things that you've said so far. Like, these have been amazing. Like, for me, it wouldn't have even occurred to me to have a second host if you're running an online live event, just on the off chance your internet drops out. So that right there is amazing if anyone wants to run live events. And then again, about your thoughts around just being aware that people are going to show up who you don't necessarily know where they're at. So having that contingency in place for them to feel supported through whatever they're going through, again, is an amazing tip. And then even just having the awareness of, all right, I'll take a kettle. Yep, cool. Maybe I'll make sure I've got a box of tissues. All right, I'll make sure there's extra pens and notepads. Like, that sort of stuff is like amazing. Like, I'm loving these tips. Do you have any more tips? What about for if someone was running an online event? What other tips would you have around that?
So whenever I write, I'll show you. So I taught a class this morning, and at the top of my notes, on the top of every class, I always write, like when I'm writing the class, and I'm a real, like, this is like a 4-hour event, right? So I'm a big writer, but I always write at the top of my notes for a class what I need physically. So this says printed notes, slides, set up, PowerPoint, conversation starter cards, and the music and speaker, right? So that when I get up in the morning, because I teach at 8 a.m. in the morning, because of the time zone I teach to, people in America as well, and Europe. So I always know exactly what I need. And, for me as a facilitator, I have beside me a little bit of flower essence. I've got a little bit of orosoma, like if I need to zhuzh up my energy a little bit. And, the other thing I think can be really good before you do an online event is actually to activate your voice, because in an online event, you have less things to use. But one of the main things you're using is your energy, having a nice background, but it's your voice. And you can, here's a really quick tip, and it comes from opera singers, that if you massage the sides of your ribs, right, and you can do this if you're listening, if you massage the sides of your ribs, so Simone and I are doing it, if you massage the sides of your ribs and the bottom of your ribs a bit, and even the top a bit, and then you relax, you'll notice that you can take a deeper breath.
Yeah.
And Simone's voice just deepened then on her. Yeah, her voice was deeper and wider. And so if you just have these little tricks that can deepen, just give more more space for your voice, then your voice can come from this is a tip. If your voice comes from a deeper place in your body, and I did some training to help my voice come more from my body, then when you speak from your body, like your voice is coming from deeper in your body, then as your voice moves through your body and out, people can feel who you are. Right? When we just speak from our voice box, people will hear our voice, but not necessarily feel us. And so if you want to really move people, just taking a little bit, like breathing deeper before you start the event, anything like that can allow you to be more in your body, people will, because in our tone and in the energy of our voice is also our message, and people, it's 93% of everything people take in is not conscious information, it's subconscious information, and a lot of that is through all of these different qualities. And online, that can mean the difference between sales.
And I even think, like, with online, they're seeing you, but if you were to do a podcast or something like that where they're just hearing you, it becomes even more important. So I think that actually really leads into showing the difference between an online and a physical event, and then something that's solely voice heard. Like if you're doing a physical event, they can see you, they can hear you, they can practically feel you. Like if they want to, they can technically come and touch you and shake your hand, you know? Whereas when you go to that online event, it is just, I can see you and I can hear you. And then, for example, if you were to do a podcast or just an audio, then they can just hear you. So I think having an awareness of what you're using in your actual body is an amazing thing to think about, because it's definitely not something I would have thought about until you just said it then. And then now it's like, oh yeah, that resonates, makes a lot of sense to be aware of what's coming out of you compared to what people are receiving, if that makes sense.
Totally. And like, you know, that when we all do this, that you'll go to a podcast that you like and you listen to someone, you go, nah, and then you start on someone else, you go, nah, right? Like there's something that there's something that's not there for you. And then you're going on the sound of and the energy of someone's voice, and then you hit someone, you're like, listen to that podcast and then go find them on other podcasts. All, because there's something going on in the resonance of that person that you need.
Yeah, totally 100% agree with that. And yeah, it's one of those things where you can see that person on social media and be like, yep, I totally resonate with their message. I totally resonate with what they're doing. I totally resonate with who they are. And then you hear them and you're like, yeah, no, you know, like it's really interesting how that happens. So you're exactly like totally on, like it's totally just about the voice and the things they're saying and the way they're saying them. And yeah, the little like inflections they use and whatever accent they might have on the way that they would maybe at the end of words, if they go down instead of up, so have that more of a not so positive of a tone, if that makes sense. Those little things can make such a difference just to the way you sound, and then, as you said, the way people perceive you, if that makes sense. So yeah, I actually think this is really interesting that we're talking about voice. I literally love it. So if someone was going to start an event in any form, what would be your top 3 tips?
I would say really, number one would be really care about the people that are coming to your event and contemplate how can you communicate to them that they matter to you. Yeah, that they're important, and that might be in the way you write your email or in the images that you choose, as well as how you put the event on itself. Second would be, how can you have a good time? Because if you have a good time, everyone else is. And third would be, often you would say your message and what you want to communicate is important, but I think that's all so automatic, I don't even know to say it. So the other one I would say would be, think about some of the things that might go wrong and find solutions for them ahead of time, because then you're going to relax and then you're going to shine in that event, knowing that you've got your bases covered and those things are possibly unlikely to happen. And then
you can just press go. Yeah, I love that. Totally love that. I think all of those 4 tips or 3 tips are so valid. Like, I think that definitely caring about your audience is definitely where you should definitely start, and just getting that understanding, but going to you also having fun as well. Like, it's not just about your audience and it's not just about you, it's about the collective of who's involved. So I literally love that. And I was just thinking though that there is one thing we didn't really touch on. What sort of ways can you market an event?
That's a great topic.
Yeah.
Wow. And that depends on your budget, and that depends on the kind of event that you're going to market. I would say, obviously, on your social media, your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter, whatever is important for you, and being consistent about it on those different platforms. You can do lives where you talk about it on any of those platforms. You can, if you have an email list, you can do email marketing, can be very effective for events. And you can also do something called shout outs, where you can have other people on their social media share your events, especially if you have colleagues and friends who maybe have a bigger audience. You can also invite someone onto your social media who has a bigger audience than you and interview them, or have them interview you on their audience, and then you're exposing yourself and your message and your offering to bigger audience in that way as well. You can also do paid advertising. I think that that's trickier these days with all the changes that are going on with Apple software. It has made things like Facebook and Instagram advertising harder to get right unless you have a really big budget. But that stuff, that can be worth trying. I've had some things that have worked with Facebook advertising, and sometimes it's just been like, it's a total dud and you just stop it. And again, it's because of a lot of the changes that have happened. If you're doing something local, you could do advertising in your local newspaper. You can, if it's a local event, you can, do brochures and postcards and all of those different kinds of like physical material forms of advertising. My advertising, it tends to be all online. And the other one, it just takes a little bit more organization, but you can do something called joint venture, where it depends. This is more if it's a higher price point. If it's a conference, say, and it's $2,000, then you might say to 50 people, have a really big audience, can you please advertise my event to your audience, and here's a special code for them, and if they purchase it, I'll give you $250 per ticket, right? Or $100 per ticket. I mean, I'm being very generous. You probably wouldn't give that much. It depends on the value of it, and you can build that value in, and that can be a really great way of reaching audiences beyond your own. So that's a few tips. And also just trust your own audience. Like, trust who you, especially when you're first starting, who do you think is most likely going to come, or you think it would be good for, and invite them personally.
Yeah. I love that. I definitely love that. And I love that you did give an overview enough to just spark some ideas in people, because that's what I was wanting with the question, which I probably didn't articulate. But it's the way you've answered that has given a lot of different ideas for people to kind of go, oh, yeah, that resonates, or, oh, yeah, cool, that resonates for me. So, yeah, I literally love that you spoke about that in more of a broad sense of what the options are. So thank you so much. Now, where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
So you can find me on my website, Myree, which is Myree.com.au. So you can find me there. There's so much information on my website. I've got a blog. I publish a blog every week. So there's a lot of content there. I have a lot of free or low cost events, as well as programs that you can check out. And I'm on social media. Sometimes I'm doing so many big creative things because I'm very creative by nature. I can go a little bit quiet on social for a week or two at a time. That's usually because I'm writing like really big things and having a lot of fun. There's no juice left for social media, but I am on there, and I have a little YouTube channel. So that's the different places you can find me.
Amazing. I will absolutely link to all of those so you guys can check out Myree, because that is awesome. And this whole conversation has been amazing. Like, it's been a really great way to give people an idea of how to get things started. And also for me, I think a lot of people, when they're thinking I'm building a brand, they think live events. So it was really nice hearing you say live online events and talk about that, because that's not really something people talk about. Like this event, for example, it's pre-recorded, so actually having a live online event is another option that people can look at, which gives people at home more options in when they view, where they view, in terms of like if they can't make a certain time, that's okay. Instead of having to be there for the whole day or whatever the event is, they can still catch 90% of the event. So I literally love this whole conversation. I feel like you've added so much value. So thank you so much for being here, Myree. It's been great.
It's been such a joy. Thank you, Simone. And I want to wish you all out there who are listening the most beautiful blossoming of your dreams and ideas about having a live event. And just know that you can do it. And even if you touch just one life, you've made a difference. And start wherever your dreaming feels the right size, and give yourself permission to let that keep expanding.
I literally love that. Thank you so much.